It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey guys, welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show where you go to date, learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. So you'll notice I normally do these shows on Tuesday and today is Saturday. And so honestly, in LA here, it is raining and I'm bored. So I've been going on Reddit. I always go on Reddit to research things and look up questions that people are asking so I get an idea of what things people are going through that I can help you guys with. And so sometimes I'll save a bunch of these various comments or questions and I just have it in my notes and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to eventually get to those questions and answer them. And so today is that day because I have nothing else to do. So for those of you that are tuning in, welcome. I'm Harry Wilmington. We're going to give you guys some dating advice today. I'm going to read through questions. And also, as I always say, this show is ultimately about you guys. So if you're watching this show right now live and you have a question, you can leave the question in the chat and I'll be able to get to it. So be sure to do that. So the person asking right now, yes, you can ask a question here. I'll be happy to answer it. Outside of this show, though, if you need help beyond what this show can offer you, I do have a website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can go there to check out my various eBooks, audiobooks, programs. And right now I have a free webinar there called 3 Nice Guy Dating Patterns That Turn Women Off and What to Do Instead, which will really help you if you had bad dating patterns that you keep finding yourself in a loop of either getting into friendships with women instead of relationships, or things are going great and then they're going bad. That webinar will give you great insights into why that is and what to do differently. So you can check all that out at the website. Be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel while you're here. So thanks for joining me today. So while you're waiting to ask your question, I will go ahead and start off with questions that I've just collected here. And these are questions, by the way, on Reddit that I've actually answered the people that asked them. So these are like back and forth, but for these particular ones, I'm just giving the questions and then I'll be going through the questions and stopping at points to give my insights and then what the person I feel should ultimately be doing or not doing in these various situations. So with all that said, let's get into it. So we have a question here from a guy who's been with a girl for 5 months and he is bothered by a particular thing that's not happening in his bed. So, or her bed rather. So here's the question. He says, so my girlfriend and I have been dating for 5 months and it's been going pretty good, but she does one thing that bothers the heck out of me, even though she swears it has nothing to do with me. Whenever I sleep over, she'll wait until I fall asleep and then she'll go into her living room and sleep on the couch, leaving me in her room to sleep in her bed. I've asked her about this multiple times and she says it's because she snores and she doesn't want to wake me up. But the handful of times she has fully slept with me through the night, I've never heard her snore. And even if she did, I am a heavy sleeper, so it wouldn't bother me, which I've told her multiple times. I've expressed that this makes me feel weird, and she said she'd stop. But last night, she did it again. I'm starting to suspect she has some other reason for doing this, but she refuses to tell me. What do you think? It's to the point where I feel like I should stop sleeping over, to be honest. So I feel sorry for this guy, but I feel sorry for this guy that he's stuck in his head about her not wanting to sleep with him being a him issue. Now, I will speak from my own personal perspective. A good majority of women that I have dated have snored, move around in their sleep really weird, or just their body heat. It gets really sweaty and hot. And I found myself on several occasions when dating, going to bed with women whereby I don't get a lick of a good night's sleep, either because of the aforementioned reasons or just because maybe because I was single for a long time to where I just got used to being in my own bed. Whatever the reason, usually in most relationships, I find that it's the same for me. Either I go over their place and I sleep on the couch, or I try to sleep in their bed and I just can't seem to fall asleep. Or with the women that snore, I'll wear like earplugs and whatnot, but sometimes the earplugs fall out, or it's something about not being able to fully hear that freaks me out, because especially as a guy, you want to be on guard in case like dangerous stuff's happening and you got to get up and like now protect you and the girl you're with, you know? So all this to say though is that There are a plethora of reasons why a person may not be able to get a comfortable sleep with you next to them in their bed. And to that, I say, it's okay and get over it. Like, real talk, I know it's very easy to make those kind of issues about what are we doing as people, or why are we so bad at sleep next to? And sometimes it really is just the other person's issue. It's their issue of, for whatever reason, they're not comfortable in the same bed as somebody else. My thing is this: if the woman is still hooking up with you, why are you complaining? Like, if she's inviting you over and she's feeding you food and she's snuggling up to you and she's kissing you and she's caressing you and you guys are doing all the things in bed, and the one thing she won't do after all that is sleep in the same bed next to you, I don't know what you're complaining about. Like, I know it'd be nice to think, oh, in TV land, they make it so romantic. Like, oh, we're gonna hook up and then we're gonna spend the night cuddling with each other and just caressing each other the whole time. And that is a reality that you need to get out of your head, because there's a wide range of people, both men and women, that just cannot sleep that well functionally next to a person in bed. That does not mean that they like you any less. It's not a commentary on how you are as a person or what you're doing in bed. And hey, let's say, for the sake of argument, it is. Let's say, unbeknownst to you, guy, you are accidentally snoring a lot, or I've been told by women sometimes that I occasionally talk in bed. That running commentary could be like a thing that keeps them awake. Like, there could be any number of things that maybe you are doing in bed that you notice isn't making her leave the relationship. It's just making her want to leave your bed. Now, I've had this issue with women where, again, it's hard for me to sleep next to them, and they might get a little butthurt in the beginning. You know what I tell them? I say, you either get the version of me where I sleep next to you, I don't get a good night's sleep, and I'm cranky, or we hook up, have fun, and then I go sleep elsewhere, and I wake up refreshed, and we can continue to have a great time. And most women, I find, would rather have me be the happy-go-lucky person versus the, I'm tired all day, I'm cranky, I'm moody, I consciously know that I like her, but I don't want her around me right now because I'm just so freaking tired. And so for this woman, it could be the same. We don't know, again, what the issue is. And maybe she's being honest and saying, I just don't like sleeping next to people. Or maybe she's trying not to hurt your feelings, and it's something you are doing. Either way, do not make this a big deal. I can assure you there are women out there that in the long run will be happy to live with you, marry you, while having separate bedrooms so you can get your own separate sleep, okay? But don't push this issue, because even though it's hurting your feelings and you feel some kind of way about it, this is not a thing that you need to be selfish over. Like you saying, if she doesn't sleep next to me, I feel some kind of way. Dude, you're not taking into account that she needs good sleep also. And again, if she's doing all the other things and the one thing she's not doing is sleeping next to you, I say get over yourself. It's not a big deal. There are bigger issues that women will bring to a relationship, like baggage or ex-boyfriends or all these other things, and you're concerned about, but she won't sleep next to me after we do all the things in bed. Dude, like, you're not going to get 100% of everything you want out of a person. This is one of those things that I would say, let it go and don't make it a bigger deal than necessary. All right? So hopefully that helps you out. All right, let me get a drink here real quick. All right, we got two questions in the chat for the same person. So let's see. So we got a question in the chat, and the question goes, I fell asleep on a call with a girl, was wondering what you thought some pros and cons were. Also, how do I respond when a girl talks about her trauma? I don't want to seem like a robot just saying that sucks on repeat. All right, so the first question, you fell asleep on a call with a girl. I would say don't do late night phone calls. Look, in high school, I was not really the on the phone guy. My brother was very much a on the phone, all hours on end with girls. But my mom had a curfew for us regardless, which is that at 9 o'clock at night, it is a school night. You don't need to be talking to anybody, especially, to be fair, back in our days, we only had landlines. We didn't have cell phones. So it's like my mom didn't want to hear the phone ringing at past 9 o'clock at night when she had to now be up to hear all these phone calls. So it's a different age now, but suffice to say, I would make it a note not to accept phone calls after a certain time when you know you're going to be tired. Now, as for the pros and cons, this goes back to like, it really depends on what your reaction is. If you fall asleep and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Now she's going to subconsciously be like, oh, that was a bad thing. She's going to have hurt feelings. Versus if you joke it off like, oh man, like, sorry, I knocked out. Man, like I was thinking about how cute you were and I just was just going into dreamland. My bad. Now you're reacting to it in a positive way to where she would now take it positively. So it really boils down to how are you reacting to it when you do it? Don't rely on her reaction. She's looking to see what your reaction is going to be to that. As to your second question, How do you respond when a girl talks about her trauma? I don't want to seem like a robot just saying that sucks on repeat. So the good part is, I guess, if a woman is talking about her trauma, it means that she's willing to open up to you. But I have also found, Guy, to be honest with you, that women will talk about their trauma with anybody. So you're going to be thinking, oh, she's opening up. This is great. But she's really like telling her trauma to her girlfriends, her best friends, her family, any guy that's a friend of hers that is willing to listen to her. But again, this goes back to, in terms of talking about stuff, you have to be the one to try to change the subject. Like, you don't want to be rude and be like, she's saying, oh my God, then when I was 14, like I almost like crashed into a car and almost died. You don't want to be like, oh, that so sucks. So let's talk about do. But in the process of talking about her trauma, you can use what she's talking about and transition out of that. So for example, same scenario. Oh my God, when I was 14, I almost got into a car crash and I almost died, blah, blah, blah. You'd be like, oh man, that's terrible. That'd be traumatic. Like, I can't imagine, being like almost close to death. Like, I mean, I thought about that one time, but it was just some bad chili that I had at the food court. Oh, that's so funny, blah, 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 blah. And then you start talking about food. Like, you transition out of the trauma. But here's another interesting note, right? And this is a good thing to learn while you're young. Is that if a woman is consistently talking about trauma, where like every time you see her, it's trauma this, trauma that, trauma this, that is not the kind of woman you want to date, because it's going to go from you're trying to console her to where it's like you're now her therapist and counselor, to where she's a Debbie Downer because she's complaining all the time. And then what's inevitably going to happen is you're going to start to hear stories where it's like, it sounds like there's trauma, but you realize that she had a hand in causing some of that trauma in the first place. And then it's going to transition over to when you guys have a disagreement or a fight of some kind. She's going to be like, oh my God, you're triggering me. Oh my God, trauma. So then you learn like, oh, she's the person that likes to draw in trauma and call everything trauma. So it's not that people can't go through trauma and can't go through things, but be mindful of women that are always talking about trauma, because I can assure you they have excessive baggage, and it's going to eventually reflect on you in a negative way. And you don't need that energy. Like, there are women that'll go through traumas and say like, yeah, but I endured, and let's talk about something else. You want those women that, they have trauma, they realize that they had to be the ones to work past it. They've done the work and now they're in a better place. Women that are constantly in trauma are Debbie Downers, and they will drag you down. Do not stay with them long-term if you notice it keeps happening, okay? This is where it goes to, I know as a guy, you want to be in superhero cape mode. You want to be like, oh my God, I'm going to make her feel better. Some women are going to just keep bringing trauma after trauma after trauma. And no matter how much you try to be their Captain Salem, they're not going to get out of that traumatic space. And it is not your job to get them out of that space. So learn that now, so you won't make the mistake that most guys make, which is, I'm going to be the different guy and save her. And then they stay with the girl for 10 years who's all trauma. So hopefully this answers your question. All right. We got another question in the chat here. So the question goes, this guy asked the question. He says, I dated a girlfriend for 2 years and broke up for 2 months because I was being needy, controlling, upset when she didn't always talk to me. Oh, yeah, that's not good. That's not good. You got to get better self-esteem, less anxiety, and be more confident that if she wants to be with you, she will be with you. But continuing, he says, I find her being cold and distant now and falling back into my neediness. Well, yeah, and you know what? If you notice, it's going to be a perpetual cycle. Like, you're needy, so she pulls away. So now you're more needy, so she pulls away more. So you're going to consciously know that the neediness you're displaying is actually pushing her back further. And yet, yes, guys have feelings too. The emotional side of us is like, but I don't know how else to make this work. I got to be around more to let her know that I want her around more. And all that's going to do to the girls be like, he doesn't respect my boundaries, and now he's uber needy. And let me tell you something about neediness, right? For women watch all these like murder documentaries on like Netflix and all these other various Hulus and stuff like that. And all these things start off with the guy was nice and cool, and then maybe one day she couldn't get back to him right away. Or she had like a work thing and she couldn't see him that day. And next thing you know, he's constantly trying to be like, well, where were you? What were you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And all these things end up in these women being unalived. So you could imagine women seeing this, and then they see you starting to display behavior that indicates, oh crap, he's on the same path of neediness that the guy in that murder documentary was. So that's part of why that's not a good strategy. Anyway, he says, how can I handle this moving forward to build our relationship and not be needy? When I mirror, she is upset because I'm playing games, and it's not fair because I love to text her and it's out of character. Oh my God. So this is just because, look, it might not work out with this lady, okay? So I'm gonna tell you, for future lessons with women, right? This is why in the beginning, I talk here heavily about the whole texting game, because people keep asking me questions about texting. And the one thing that I try to stress is that when I go out on dates, on that first date, I stress to women, I am not a heavy texter. If I don't text them, it doesn't mean I don't like them, but I'm not going to be sporadically hitting them up all the time. I set the expectation early that I'm not a big texter. So that way, when I'm not texting a lot, it doesn't look like I'm playing games. It looks like I'm being consistent in what I set and established with them at the beginning. You guys like to go to women and text, and then you wonder why she's starting to look suspicious when you stop texting. Even if it's annoying her, even if it's bugging her, there's something about the lack of consistency that's more annoying than you constantly texting her all the time. But if you hadn't been texting her all the time to begin with, then you'd already be consistent by not trying to text her, all right? So this is one of those things that you now have to reestablish you have to establish a new pattern of texting with her. So when you do start to slouch off a bit, she's gonna call you out. Hey guy, you're not texting me as much, blah, 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 blah. You're gonna say, what do you mean? I'm still texting you to take you out on dates and have a good time. Like, what are you talking about? Like, play completely dumb, right? But then just do that over like a week or two, and she will get used to the new pattern of how you're texting. But in terms of right now, honestly, the whole thing of being needy and being desperate and being anxious, it stems from the subconscious belief that you are not actually enough for any woman to want to stick around long-term and to want to really be with you as who you are right now. And so, especially if you've been like, when I was a guy growing up, I didn't have the best dating experience in terms of like, I didn't have a lot of girls I was dating in high school and college because to be fair, I wasn't in a space where I really knew what to do. So I was constantly anxious and nervous. That's why I teach you guys, like, it's not that I'm saying, hey, be more confident as if it's like something I didn't go through. Like I went through all the stuff you're going through right now of like liking women and trying to write them notes and poems and trying to call them up constantly and let them know that I care for them and why won't they talk back to me. And what you'll find is that comes from a place of not feeling that you are enough and that you are feeling insecure and you don't fully get on some level why this woman actually wants to see you. And so that makes you second guess yourself and question things. And here's the thing, if you weren't being so needy, she wouldn't even bring any of this stuff up. Like all the things that are in your head about why she's going to potentially reject you or leave you are things that only you were thinking about. She is not thinking about those. At no time is she expressing those things. But at the point that you get needy, now, she's expressing, I don't want you around. But she wasn't expressing that before you got needy, right? So you have to really observe, okay, when I wasn't being that needy, desperate guy, what was the response I got? The response I got was she wanted to be around. Okay, great. So now I'm being needy and she's pulling away. So how do you fix that? I found in my personal dating journey, the ways that I was able to do that to get women that I like to come back to me and talk to me was to go away and not be needy. I would stop texting them. I would stop hanging out with them. Like I would stop initiating. I would stop initiating texts, initiating calls. I would stop initiating hangouts, and I would let them come to me. What do I always say on this show, guys? Say it with me now. If she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. So if she's the one texting you, if she's the one calling you, if she's the one asking you for dates, then you can't be rejected and you can't look needy. Now, this isn't to say that you don't have a part in play. Like obviously at the point where you guys are back on balance, then yeah, you want to be the one to ask her out. But even then, you should be asking her out once a week versus like every day. You should be initiating texts specifically to get her on a date, not to be extra flirty. And you should only be initiating texts when she initiates first and you're responding to her text. Now, again, at this stage in your dating, you might be thinking, but if I don't, what? And again, also try to stress that some of the best reactions that you'll get in your dating life are when you're doing inaction. In other words, the other person has a part to play in the actions that are being done to build a relationship. The problem you may be having is that you're trying to think you have to do all the actions. You have to do all the invites. You have to be in her space all the time. But you have to let her come to you. And that's the part where the confidence comes into play. If you've been a guy that up to this point hasn't had the most success with women, it's really hard to think, wait, if I just sit here for a few days and don't reach out to her, she'll actually reach out to me. Like, that's not a thing. And you don't believe it because it's never happened. I'm 42. It has happened extensively to where I know after one or two dates, I lay off texting. I let them text me the heys, how are yous, emoji, memes, you're so cute, you're so handsome, what are you doing today? And they will do it because women that have a high interest, if they like you a lot, they don't come across guys like that every day. You effectively become the prize that they are not trying to work for. And where you've got it backwards is you have been made to believe by the media that you have to work for her. Your part of the job is asking for dates and showing a good time, paying some money on dates and giving her good experiences, both in public as well as in private, if you know what I mean. But you are doing work. But don't think that just because you're doing work that she has no work to do. You have to leave room and space for her to do work. And that starts with you not appearing so needy. You appearing needy is you doing all the work. You doing all the work makes her feel like you're trying to force her into a relationship. You cannot force women into a relationship. It has to be their idea. If they feel forced into it, then she might agree to it in the short term, but she's going to eventually get bored and or flame out because it's too fast, too soon, all that other stuff, right? So in terms of your situation, I say lay back a bit. Like give it like a week or two where you're not the one reaching out first, and then see if your fortunes turn around. And if they do, I'd love to hear from you, and you can leave a testimonial about that. All right. But yeah, definitely be more patient and lean back. And God, this is my thing, right? If she said yes to you for a date, if she said yes to you to become your girlfriend for 2 years, and she hadn't left up to this point, then that means that as far as she's concerned, you were already enough. But the problem is you don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, everything you're going to project to her is, but I don't believe I'm enough, so you shouldn't either. And she's going to read off your energy and then back away, which is what she's doing now. So I don't care if you got to fake it or if you got to go through some therapy or talk to some guy friends about what you can do to be more confident about yourself, but you need to build that back up because that's the guy that she thought she was getting. She thought she was getting the guy that was really confident in himself, that she could believe in because he believed in himself. And now you're showing yourself not to be that. So on some level, it feels like a lie to her, as if you're now a different person altogether. And also, it's kind of making her think, but I want that confident guy back. So do what you got to do to get that guy back. If you need my help, go to the website, sign up for coaching, get one of my books, sign up for one of my programs. It extensively goes into all these things that I'm talking about here. So hopefully that helps you out. All right. Let's see. Oh, he's got a couple more questions here. Is there any way I can communicate to her that we should reestablish our communication method or just do it and be clueless? I'm sorry. I'm thinking back to like, guys, here's our thing. This is where our logical brains get us in trouble because we think that in order to reestablish good graces with women, we have to have logical talks about it. Like, before we get into the relationship again, we got to sit down and talk about the things we were doing and how we're communicating. And I used to think the same way. You know what used to annoy me? What would annoy me is like when I was in relationships, right? I would get into fights with women, not like drag down. So I'm a very even keeled guy, but like we'd have really hard discussions or whatever. And then at some point in the discussion, it would go from her being mad to being like, so what do you want for dinner? So blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, how can you just switch it on and off so soon? Like we haven't even finished. As far as I know, I still have like feelings of anger and resentment towards you, and you're ready to just switch over to dinner. And the reason that is because women, the way that they deal with their emotions, they've had so much more training than us guys about knowing how to ebb and flow in and out of different emotions. So they can go from like being upset with you to being downright angry to crying to being happy again. And guys look at this like, but we need to logically get through emotions by talking about this emotion first and this one over here and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, at the point where she's trying to move on from it, that means that she's pretty much gotten over it and you're good. But we want to sit there and say, no, I need to discuss more. And that's not always necessary. So all this to say, if she reaches out to you and she's like, because here's the thing, let's say you've been not talking to her, right? She's going to reach out to you and just be like, hey, so-and-so, how you doing? What's been going on? And you're going to be thinking, but we didn't finish talking about the thing I was mad about. Or I didn't get to talk to her about like how I didn't like the fact that she just left me and I didn't mean to be so needy. I need to talk about that. No, you don't. Like if she just comes to say, hey, how you doing? That's her way of saying, hey, I'm back in your good graces. I'm feeling good about you. Like what's going on? And at that point, you just respond like a regular ass conversation. Like you don't have to go into like the depths of like, but before we start talking again, I need to have this full. No, you don't. Like I find it's not worth the energy and effort. And assuming that you're not going to be doing the same things over again, then you don't need to remind her of why she had ghosted you for a minute in the first place. Like that's not a necessary conversation, at least as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you guys might disagree and be like, but we need to have a conversation to make sure it doesn't happen again, you can have that conversation all you want to. I'm just saying from my experience, having those conversations, it don't work out so good. And then she's just left with more bad feelings, which means now it takes a longer time to reconnect again. So take that for what it's worth. That's just my advice to you. So hopefully it helps you out a little bit. Let's see. We got another question in the chat. I've not been working out. Just the shirt. I don't know. I'm trying to get in shape again. Like the holidays, I got to like 178. I try to stay to like a 165, 168 ratio, but holidays came. My birthday was last week. So a lot of desserts there, a lot of food. So I'm just now starting to like get on the train of like eating better, So, but thanks. Appreciate it. Let's see. we have a question in the chat here. Question goes, talking to a girl that brings up things older guys have said to her on social media a lot. Does this have any meaning? I usually just say, that's crazy, and that it's not okay to do that stuff. Do you have any examples you can give us of things that these girls are saying, older men are saying to them? Because that would be a lot more helpful in terms of answering that question. Let's see. Oh, he said, bro, same exact situation. When we have serious conversations, she does the same things. Yeah, see, this is why I tell, women sometimes get insulted when I say this following phrase, but it's helpful for you guys to know this, okay? I say this, is that all women are the same and that they all think that they're different. Meaning that if you're, the older you get, you start to see patterns. You start to see women saying similar things that other women you dated before have said, and women don't like to think that they're different. And there's a psychological reason for that. It's because you got to think about, in a woman's life, she's trying to get with somebody that's going to protect her, provide for her, get her pregnant to have kids, all this other stuff, right? And so because of that, women have to believe that the guy they're with thinks that they're so special that that guy's not going to try to step out on her or leave her and then leave her unprotected as a result. So if you ask women, are all women the same? They're going to all say, no, I'm different. Well, that girl over there is like that, but I'm over here and I'm different because X, Y, and Z. But I assure you, they are all the same, which is good to know, because once you start to realize that all women are the same, it becomes a lot easier to start to, like, when people give you advice on how to deal with women, instead of being like, but what about this one over here and this one over here? You'll just be like, okay, so as a general starting point for women, this is how they're going to act. There might be a few differentials here and there, but they're basically the same. Okay, great. The reason that my Introvert Dating Success Academy step-by-step blueprint program to date women works is because I used it on a lot of women to get into a lot of relationships, and it worked. And so, yeah, and it's because I just learned, okay, so, on average, on first dates, women like this. On average, if you ask women out like this, most of them are going to say yes. On average, if a woman comes to me with a complaint, handle it like this, and she'll be happy. Like, you really get to start to learn women. Now, I took 10 to 15 years to learn this stuff. If you get the Introvert Dating Success Academy program, you can learn that like tonight, like real talk. It cuts all the BS, okay? So not trying to hype the program on here, but just that's an example of, like, I learned a dating pattern that works time and time again for all types of women, be it like the most confident woman in the world, the one that's like a little anxious, the one that's Christian, the one that's anti-Christian, the one's like whatever. Like, you learn that women as a whole don't really have too many different chicks up the sleeve. So people that say like women are so hard to understand, they just haven't really sat down and started studying the patterns of women. If you learn the patterns of women, then it's almost like, I think about it like I was playing Zelda, right? I was playing Zelda for like 5 months this past year, right? And so I'd be stuck on a problem in the game, and then as soon as I'd look it up online, it's like, oh, just do that, and I got it. Okay. And now I was able to figure out the puzzle, but it was like a little bit, it was just kind of like, oh, but like that was kind of easy. Like I didn't get to figure out myself. Well, in a game, that's fine. If I don't figure it out, I'm a little bummed out, but it's like, okay, but I got past the point, right? But in real life, if you don't know women, you're just stuck. And just like, I keep not getting hookups. I keep not getting girlfriends. What's going on? So if you're able to just look at something, it's like, oh, so when she says this means that. Okay, so now I know what to do. That makes dating the next 10 women immensely easier. So it behooves you to learn the patterns of women. Again, I got tons of resources at my website, but whether it's my stuff or somebody else's stuff, learn it and it gets easier. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So this guy had a question. He said, I was talking to a girl that brings up older guys have said to her things on social media a lot, I guess that are inappropriate. So I said, send an example. And he says, the one guy was talking about how he wants her to, quote, help him jerk off and ask her to send a picture with her tongue out, which she sent. Oh, that's so funny. So this is important to know. I'm glad you pointed the part out where women are telling you, oh, these guys send such disgusting stuff. Oh, they're so rude and so crude. But then they do the thing. Because I remember when I was in college, I think I told this story before, but I was in college. There was a girl that I really had a crush on. And we are all in the same friend circle. I remember one day she came to me, tears, crying down her face, like, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? What's going on? And she was almost too ashamed to say what was going on. So finally, after a little bit of time, she opened up and said, well, she's all crying and upset. She's like, oh my God, well, I went to so-and-so's room up at his dorm. And next thing I know, like he had me down on my knees and I was she was servicing him, right? And so at the time, because how she was telling the story, I was like, oh, that dude, like, how could he do that to her? Blah, blah. And then I thought about it later and was like, wait a minute. Nobody forced her to go to the room. Like all he did was make a simple request. She didn't have to go to the request, but she did the thing. But now here she is crying about it, but she did the thing. And so she's remorsing about it now, but she did it. And honestly, like, I want that from her. Like, what's the big deal? So what you learn in this world is that there's going to be the way in which women react to things and tell you how they're reacting to things, and then the things that they're actually willing to do. There are women that you can go to them and be like, hey, don't ever do this, but go to them like, hey, B word, like, you need to get your A up to my room right now. Oh my God, how dare, blah, blah, blah. But then they'll go. And so this really goes to, like, these are examples of, like, notice what this guy did. Wants her to help do the thing and asks in the picture. He was at least bold enough to ask. And in most women's lives, they find that most guys that they're around are pussyfooting around them or being too chicken to exactly ask for what they want. And women want guys that are going to not even ask, are going to tell them what they want as if they're entitled to get it, And so that's why those guys win. Those so-called jerk guys who are asking them to jerk them off and to send them naked pictures and do all those things, they win because the worst they know a worse that a girl can say is no. But if I don't ask it as a question, and also if I say it with the confidence that she actually needs to send it to me, then there's a good chance that she's going to do it. Other trick I've learned, this is again, psychological trick. Since we were young kids, we've all been trained to do what we're told. Like, our parents don't say, hey, so-and-so, can you take out the trash? They say, hey, you, take out the trash. And we just do it. We just automatically do it. So unbeknownst to you guys, we grow up being willing to do things that we're told to do, not asked to do, told to do. And in our subconscious, it's almost like if you don't ask the question, it's like, well, I guess I have no choice to do it. So these guys are probably like, hey, you, send me a picture of yourself. Oh, I just got to do it. It's like, it's a subconscious automatic reaction. So this is why you guys are like, hey, so, I mean, I'm wondering if maybe you want to like go on a date, or if I could, possibly have your number. That doesn't look bold. It looks feminine in energy. It doesn't look masculine at all. It doesn't look confident. And more importantly, you're asking her, which now gives her brain the subconscious option to say, I don't want to do that, versus, hey, real quick, give me a number. Hey, you, send me that picture. It's like, it's so confident and bold and authoritative that they're like, oh, shoot, I guess I got to send a thing. Oh, shoot. Like, you get more results in this world if you're bold and you're telling people what you want versus, and being apprehensive about it. So that's why those guys are winning. So this is what you have to do. You have to ignore women tell you, I would never let a guy do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, they would. I wouldn't let a guy touch me like that on a first date. Yeah, they would. I'd never go home on a first date and do. Yes, they would. How do I know? I'm 42. I've experienced a lot of stuff. And suffice to say, what women will tell you in person, nice guy, versus what they'll actually do with a guy that's going to, in their head, because they're not such a nice guy, they're going to be less judgy, they'll do those things. So you have to learn how to be the, not nice guy, but the gentleman guy who is open to anything she's trying to say or do and not be judgmental. Now, with that said also, here's how women are going to test you, right? Because especially if you're a guy that's inexperienced or you're a guy that really hasn't been in the presence of too many women to understand this concept, sometimes women will bring things to you and ask you what your opinion is about it to see what your reaction is. Because what they're actually doing is they're telling you, unbeknownst to you, they're telling you a thing they actually be into doing, but they want to see what your judgment call is going to be on it. So for example, a girl might come to you, oh man, I saw this movie the other day where these people were having a threesome. What do you think about threesomes? Now you as a guy are going to be thinking, oh, well, women want monogamy, so I got to let her know that the I'm only into monogamy. And you're going to be like, oh no, how a three? What? No, I would only want to be with one girl at a time. I could never imagine. And you don't know that she was thinking about possibly giving you a threesome. Or you don't know about like, what do you think about like, a first date, if a girl would like to, do something with a guy, like hook up with him, this is that. Now you're thinking, oh, she wants the nice guy answer. She doesn't want to be used for sex. So I'm going to tell her that I would want to wait several dates and get to know her as a person and really, dive deep into her history before. So you're going to tell all that stuff. And she was thinking, crap, I was hoping to go out tonight and go on a first date and bang this guy, but I guess he's not the guy for me. So when women bring these kind of things to you, you have to be mindful to answer in a way that's not going to make them feel judged if they happen to be on that thinking path. So we'll go back to like, so what would you think about if, say hypothetically you want a first date with a girl and she wanted to hook up, like what would your thought be? My answer would be, well, I would say this. I would say that whether I get a hookup or not on that first date, my goal is to just get to know her in whatever capacity that means. If it happens to lead to that, great. But if not, I'm still going to have a fun time. Now she can think, oh, okay, so if it happens to lead that way, he's not going to judge me and he'll be down for it. Cool. But you have to know that. And this is the thing. I'm actually working on a show for Tuesday about various tests that women will give you to test you to see like various things about you. And this is one of those tests. Well, they'll throw something out there just to see how you're going to answer it. And depending on what your answer is, you're either shooting yourself in the foot or you're passing, and you're going to get a lot more out of the interaction than you thought you were going to get. So that's just a little insight for you guys that maybe have not experienced that yet. You have to understand when women ask you questions, they're not asking a surface level question to get a surface level answer. They're asking in the hopes that whatever you answer is going to allow them to read more into your psyche and what you're about and what you're not about to determine if she should continue on seeing you. It's a very tricky way to do things, but that's how women operate. You can be mad at it or you can just understand it. So hopefully that answers your question a bit. All right, hold on a second here. So he says she got mad daddy issues because her real dad beat her and took his life. Oh God. Not the spam, but I just said that it's not all right to be a creep to younger girls like that. And I felt bad for them. Hope they got help. Is that all right? Again, if she was telling you, like, for example, right? She tells you the story. Well, this one guy was talking to this girlfriend of mine, and he sent her a thing saying that he wanted her to help him get off, and then asked in a picture of tongue out, and she did. And you're thinking your answer is like the right one to give. But what if she was that girl? What if she was the girl that got the message from the guy to help him get off, and that she was the one that sent the tongue picture? Now, unbeknownst to you, you've now judged her. She was saying it was about somebody else, but it was about her. So that's what I'm saying when these questions come arise. Like they're going to frame the questions from an angle whereby you think it's perfectly safe and fine and okay to answer it because it's not about her. She wouldn't dare ask a hypothetical about her. Women do this all the time. And so you have to be mindful, again, when they're asking these questions, the answer you need to give is one that is not judgmental. So your answer of like, I said it's not all right to be a creep. You've said that it's not all right. You said that it's creepy behavior. You said that send it to young girls, which, hey, I agree with you. But the fact is she or her friend are putting themselves in these situations they could easily just not put themselves in. Like they're of the age where it's like, oh my God, this guy's sending me creepy stuff, but then they're still sending pictures. Now, obviously, we hold a lot of fault for the guy because he should know better than to do that. And women at your guys' ages are very impressionable and will fall for crap like that. But she could have still said no at the end of the day. So this goes back to your answer to them is going to feel kind of judgy. If they're the ones that did the action, it's going to make them feel bad. And then if you're trying to get with them, they're going to be like, oh, I guess I can't get with him. And not that I'm saying you should get with her, because if she's doing that kind of stuff, then, obviously that's not somebody you want to date. But I'm saying the point is that women will bring things to you to ask as if it's a hypothetical when it's something that actually happened to them. So again, you can't fall for that because they're going to do it all the time, especially the older you get, surprisingly, So hopefully that gives you some understanding on that. All right, so now I'm going to get to another question that I found on Reddit that I wanted to answer. Let's see. So this question here, this guy says, I have a date tomorrow and I need some help. There's a coworker that I like and we have great chemistry. This could be something serious. The first date was horrible and she understood the situation. He didn't say why it was horrible. He did. Long story short, I was way too drunk and we only cuddled. I've been saying on the show several times now, guys, alcohol is not your friend in the dating world. You need to learn how to date and how to talk to people without being inebriated, without being drunk or high or any of the other things that are going to, because this is the thing. And as a kid, I didn't honestly, guys, I did not have my first drink of alcohol until I was 21. I finally tried an edible for the first time last year at 41. So I was just like, that was a good time to try it out. I sat with my friends. I had half of a cookie and I was pew. And I sat there the whole time like, the high part feels great. The getting to the high part feels horrible. And the come down feels worse. I don't know how people do this. But anyway, the point is this, is that as you're getting into talking with women, it's better to practice talking to women without having anything in you, because what will happen is that'll become your crutch. And then later on down the line, when you're in your 20s and 30s, you have an alcohol problem or getting high problem, and you can't talk to women that great, or you're constantly having to drink and get high in order to go on dates. And then all these kind of issues happen where you're not able to read signals the right way, or something you unintentionally violate her in some way, or worse, you miss out on things that indicate she would have liked you, but you were too high to notice it, and now you started some kind of fight that you didn't mean to, and now she doesn't want to like you anymore. So it really behooves you as a guy to, because again, on dates, women are following your leadership, and if your leadership is, I'm drunk, I'm high, I can't think straight, then that's not going to make her trustworthy of your leadership. Even if you later down the line are able to like go out and have a few drinks or whatever, I would advise you guys not to be doing this on first, second, or third dates, especially. Like, you need to start getting to the practice of learning how to talk to women without these extra things. It will serve you greatly. All right. Anyway, so he says, long story short, I was too drunk and we only cuddled. She wanted more. The way she looked at me, I know what she meant, but I didn't want it to go that way. I got her a taxi and sent her home. Well, you know what? I stress to you guys that, like, at the end of the day, consent goes both ways. If you're not, for whatever reason, feeling on that first date like you want to do stuff, nothing says you have to. Now, it's different, though, if you saw that she wanted to do it and you did want to do it, but you sent her away anyway, then you got to kind of question, like, what that was about. Were you not completely confident that she wanted to actually do stuff, or were you, in this case, too drunk to do things? Like, you got to really figure that out. But either way, don't think that just because, you learn all this pickup stuff and you learn how to hook up with women, that you have to do it on that first date. That the pickup and the hookup can happen on your own time. If you're not ready that first time, that's totally fine. Most women I find, again, they're following your timing. So I've made women wait 2 or 3 months before we hooked up, and they were totally fine to do that because they're just wanting to get to know me. I'm getting to know them. And so you can totally do that as a strategy if you want to. But again, also don't feel bad if you decide that first night you want to do some stuff, and don't judge her for wanting to do stuff either, because women hate that. Anyway, he says, I asked her out again after 3 weeks. She stopped replying for an entire day. Then she agreed. So so 3 weeks later, he asked her out again, and she ignored the text for a day. And then she said, yes, let's go on a date. So then he says, what does that mean? Was she waiting for a more formal date? Since the last date was kind of a workplace party and I took her to the nearest pub, we didn't want the night to end. So I wouldn't even consider that a date. That was like a meetup that turned into like a walkout, that turned into like you guys hang out at a pub. That's not really like the best first date story. Like an actual date is what we're looking for. But you asked her out. So she said yes to it. Fantastic. So he's saying, but he's wanted to know why, what does that mean that she waited a day? Dude, who knows? Like, I've been in relationships where I will text a woman like in the morning and I don't hear from her till like either that night or the next day. She was busy. She was doing other things, yada, yada, yada. Phone died, whatever. Okay. All we care about is when she responded, did she say yes? If that's what happened, then you dealing with all this extra, but wait, she waited a day to text me back. I have things I want to talk about. No, you don't. You don't need to do that. No. All we care about is, did she say yes to the date? And is she going to show up for the date? So all these extra things that guys seem to want to suddenly care about, like, well, did she text me exactly the time that I text her back, blah, 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 blah. I look for various metrics that are more important than that. Like, if I text her and ask her on a date, does she say yes? At the time that the date's supposed to happen, does she show up? At the end of that date, when I wait a few days to contact her and I ask her out again, does she say yes to that date? On these dates, is she touching me in certain ways? These are the things that matter more than all the other things you have in your head that are things that don't actually matter. And for some of you guys, honestly, it takes you having to go out and date more women for this to become a thing that you recognize. See, when I was a younger dater, I wasn't getting a lot of dates. So I'd have a date like every 4 or 5 months or so, and I'd be like, oh crap, like I gotta make this one work. And in the process, I'm thinking like, but wait, I can't actually look back at previous girls that I dated and see that there's a pattern of like how they act or how they function and what actually got them to go on a date with me in the first place. So if you date if you date a girl every 4 or 5 months, you're not getting enough time in. If you're dating a girl once a week, like a new girl every once a week, you start to see like, oh, okay, so this one said this thing, so she's not interested. Okay, this one did this action, so she's really interested. And it also, like, I find that in terms of the dating side of things, that as you date more, you will be less anxious and nervous about whether or not a girl falls off. Like, if you're, again, dating every 4 or 5 months, every 4 or 5 months, you get this one girl that comes in, you now have one shot. I only have one shot to make this work because then I want to have a date. I want to have a girl. Oh my God. If you're dating a girl every week, then it's like, all right, if this one doesn't work out, that's fine because my budget can't handle these 5 other girls that I'm dating and I got to take them out also. And then you'll be the one that's in the driver's seat versus you having to be reactionatory to whether or not a girl likes you, or if you text the right way, or if you call the right way. And again, those things are important to know. Like knowing the right amount of text to send and how to call, those things are important. But if you're doing that with one person versus 5 other people, if you're doing it with 5 other people, then the one that doesn't work out, you have 4 or 5 other girls to practice on. It becomes less of an issue and you'll be less anxious as a result. But that's why you got to up your numbers. That's why, honestly, for you older guys, I highly recommend doing online dating. I know some of you guys hate it. I have recently helped 2 of my friends get engaged and married to people they met online by helping them with their profiles and how to talk to women on these things through the Messenger app and stuff like that. Like, it behooves you to learn that, because then with online dating, you can match with a bunch of people, or at least 1 or 2 a week, enough to where you get enough practice to practice your talking to them, practice asking out on dates, practice actually going out on dates and then showing them a good time, what to do, what not to do. The more practice you'll get, you'll start to have real world practice about what's working and what's not working. That will then tie to your subconscious of, okay, next time on a date, don't do this. Next time, continue to do that. And you'll be more confident as a result. If you're only getting a couple dates every other month or so, then you're going to always be anxious and nervous, you know? Anyway, so he says, now she is coming to my studio tomorrow for dinner. I'm decent at cooking. Any other ideas on what we should do? We're both young, but mature enough to not be awkward if it fails. This is the first time I'm bringing a girl back to my studio. I usually go somewhere else, or in relationships I've moved in. Ooh, that guy was fast. But this girl checks, oh, here we go. He's already effing up. But this girl checks everything I've been looking for: intelligent, funny, etc. She's not into social media and likes to live in the moment like me. Well, I will say the social media part, that's great. Like, I myself don't typically date women that have a big social media presence, to the point where if we break up, you cannot even find them online. Like, because they know, like, in a relationship, it should just be you guys two. They shouldn't be trying to show their bodies to the world and everybody else. And so kudos on that part. But here's the thing. This is where guys start to mess up. It's only been 1 date. And they work together. Very important. They work together. They've only gone on what we'll say is like half a date, because they were at a work party that led to them going to a pub. Kudos for him for getting it to move out to where he singled her out. But yeah, it was only half a date, right? So, but the part where guys mess up is when they start saying things like this. This girl checks everything I've been looking for after half a date and a couple of days at work together. Guys, it takes 3 months for a woman to solidify her feelings because she's doing her due diligence. You need to do the same. Guys make assessments too quickly about women. After a couple of good conversations and half a decent date, we're like, yeah, I can make this work. When you don't know anything about her actual dating history, her family history, how she likes, what color she likes, how she treats waiters and waitresses, like, there's a whole string of things that you need to look out for on top of whatever red flags she may throw your way before you say, she's everything I've been looking for. Oh, great, she's intelligent, so she can have a conversation. Oh, great, she's funny. She knows how to laugh at your jokes, etc. She does some other things that you saw that she does seemingly well. This does not give you enough full insight into a woman to make a concrete decision that she is the one you want. And when you start going into your dating life with that thought process that all women are the same and that they all need to actually prove themselves in a longer time frame, then one, that puts you in control of the dating situation. And also you will have less complications, because you will come off when you're trying to, if you approach dating like a research project, then there's no way you can come across as needy or desperate, because you're not needy or desperate for her yet. All you're trying to do is find out info. You're trying to find out info that's going to allow you to have a better feel about this person being the one for you in a long-term relationship. And that should take you 2 to 3 months. So when he starts saying things like this, I already know he's going to mess up. I already know he's already thinking too heavy about it. I know it's not going to work out. And it's sad because, you know, if he could seemingly be a great guy, but the fact that he took on half a date, waited 3 weeks, is already concerned that I waited a whole day to have to hear from her. And now is trying to figure out like what to do because she's the best thing ever. All that screams he's about to project onto this woman so much pressure that she's going to lose interest. He's already hyping up how big of a deal. She's coming over. Oh my God. And it's very exciting, and it's great if a girl is about to come over to your place, because we know what that essentially could possibly mean, right? But even with that, I wouldn't be hyped about that. Like, I'd be like, okay, she's coming over. Great. I'm going to clean my place up. I'll cook a nice meal, and then we'll see what's what. That's literally my energy. It's like, I know how to show her a good time in whatever capacity that means, whether it's just we're eating food, we're playing board games, or we go to the bedroom, you know? But it's like, either way, I'm not overly hyped about it, because I'm like, I hope this goes well, but you know what? If it doesn't, there's others out there. And so, but I find having that attitude makes women feel less pressured. And then it makes them want to be the one to add pressure to me to date them, to hook up with them, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we want. We want women feeling like it's their choice to try to see if you're going to be interested in a relationship with them versus you as the guy trying to pressure on her relationship. Like that's going to cause you to not get relationships. Again, how do I know this? Because in my teenage and 20s, I found that the few times that I did like a girl, when I started applying all this pressure and saying all these things and calling them all the time, all this stuff, it resulted in them, whatever interest they had in me, it just dropped, went away completely. And then the few times that I had a girl that I did that to, and then I would back away, I find 2 months later, hey, Harry, what's going on? How you doing? Because we didn't have texting back then. How you doing? Hey, I want to come over and see you. What's going on? Because I wasn't applying pressure. And then back then, I wasn't the person that I am now. So they'd start showing interest again. And then what do? Now I want to go back and apply all the pressure. Now they're showing interest and then trace them away again. And so you have to learn whether they're coming towards you or not. You cannot be the one to apply all this pressure. You make moves at pinpoint times that are going to move things forward, but you don't pressure all the time to try to make things go forward. Again, you need help knowing what those things are, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, sign up for coaching, sign up for a program. All right. So the last part of his question is, so basically he's saying, she's into me. She wants to come see me. He says, however, there are a lot of guys after her at work and she gets hit on constantly. I am not insecure, but the question is, why me? I've never had a problem with the ladies, but this one is different. No, she's not. My English is not my first language. So if I said something wrong, I didn't mean it. So this guy, again, he's already going in with a low level of self-esteem because he said right here, she gets hit on all the time. Why would she choose me? And I'm sure some of you guys have been through that same situation where like you'll see a girl and you see like all these guys that are just hitting on her left and right. And you're like, but she's talking to me. She's paying attention to me. Like, why would she choose me? That signals that you don't think you're actually good enough for this woman. And this is what I tell you guys, right? Is that just because you do not see in you what would make a girl want to date you doesn't mean that she doesn't see it. Now, this is where we go back to sales, right? In sales, let's say I'm selling a product, right? I believe in a product, but like, you know, I've sold like, I used to sell Cutco knives back in the day, and those knives could be like $800-900 a set, you know? And yet there'd be a few people that I would go to where they'd buy this $800 set of knives. Now, would it be smart of me to be like, I'm sorry, but why are you buying the knives? Like, I mean, I talked about them and, you know, they cut really well and this and that, but why are you buying them? Like, why are you paying that much for knives? What's that going to make the person in front of me do? It's going to make them second guess, why am I buying these knives? Like, did he bamboozle me? Like, should I not buy the knives? Because he's clearly saying I shouldn't be buying the knives, right? Like, I'm not going to buy the knives now. Like, this is what you guys do when girls come to you and say, hey, I want to go out. And you're like, but why do you want to date me? Like, I'm just a lowly slob and I don't have a job. And that rhymed. And I don't have a car and I can't take you far. That rhymed also. Like, you're just like, now you're trying to not sell her on going out with you after she's already been sold by herself on going out with you. Like, at that point, what are you doing? And so this guy's going to the same situation. He's like, why me? Why poor old me? He's going to bring it to the house and she's going to want to do some stuff. And in his head, he's going to be thinking, but why would she want to hook up with me? Like, what's so special about me that she's a hook up? And he's going to mess it up. And so you guys, this is what I tell guys in general, right? Women are the consumers. If they come to you and say, I like your product and I want to buy you, i.e. I want to go out with you, I want to date you, I want to hook up with you, your job is not to talk her out of the sale. Your job is to be like, hey, in your head, I don't understand why she wants to do things with me, but hey, she's the consumer. Okay, great. Let's go have fun. Like, you do that. You don't try to sit there and try to second guess, or is this a joke? Is she playing with me? Or is she just going to use me for a hookup and then leave me? Like, no. Like, she chose you because she saw something in you that maybe you didn't see in yourself, but that she finds immensely interesting enough to where she wants to do something with you and connect with you. So let her be right. Like, sometimes you got to look at, like, if she wants me, I'm in the wrong here. I'm tripping. I'm gonna go along with what she says, which she wants to be with me. She wants to do me. She wants to take me out and go with that. Sometimes you need to let your own self-esteem issues, like, you need to ignore them completely for what is in front of you saying to you, I want you. And the sad part is, if you have low enough self-esteem, you're not going to hear that. And you're going to be constantly saying, no, you don't want to go to the bedroom with me. No, you just trying to blah, blah. Like, don't talk women out of wanting to do things with you. Like, if they're saying I choose you, let that be their choice and make them happy that they chose you. You know what I mean? So hopefully this helps you guys out. All right, we got a question. You know what? Actually, I'm going to get a drink of water real quick because I am really thirsty right now. I got to fill my cup up. So we'll be right back. Hey guys. Yep, it's still me here. So if you have been trying to figure out the ins and outs of how to date, it can be very, very challenging, especially if you don't have the proper roadmap to be able to get there. You know, going from dating to getting into a relationship has its own set of problems and issues that if you're not aware of them, you can ultimately end up not being successful. And that's why I've created the Introvert Dating Success Academy. This is an academy that is designed to help you figure out the ins and outs of how to meet, greet, attract, date, land, and keep the woman of your dreams. You could have a girlfriend within the span of 3 months of meeting somebody if you knew the practical steps to take at each stage, from when you first meet the woman, how to talk to her, all the way up to how to ask her out on a date, the kind of date to take her on, how to get to that first kiss, or something more complex as to how to get in the bedroom, what to do when you're in the bedroom, and even concerning things like when you guys have your first argument, how do you deal with that? What signs can you look for that indicate how she feels about you without you having to ask her? And how can you tell when it's time for you to have the relationship conversation? Well, these are all things that are covered in the Introvert Dating Success Academy. It is a video course. It is 12 videos that are designed to walk you through that entire process, A through Z, step by step, so you can finally land the woman of your dreams. And with that, there are some pretty cool bonuses that come with that as well. Now, if you want to check that out and see what the whole program is about, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and you can click on the programs tab and then click on the section that says Introvert Dating Success Academy and see everything that comes with it. But I promise you guys, this program is based on my personal success and the steps that I've used time and time again to be able to attract women, get with any kind of woman that I want to, and if I decide to, get into relationships. And I believe it can be very helpful for you as well. So go to the website, take a look at it, and I'll be happy to assist you and help you when you join the Introvert Dating Success Academy today. And we're back. How you doing? So we have a question in the chat. Okay, so here's the guy's question. He says, how do you deal with overthinking of your girl cheating on you? She's cheated in her past relationship after her ex cheated on her first. I don't know if I fully trust her. I don't trust people usually. Her past situation just makes me validate my trust issues, but she's told me she wouldn't do that because our relationship is different. Well, guy, I don't know if you're going to like my answer. But honestly, at the point where if I was in her situation, at the point where she told me, I'm assuming you learn about that in the dating phase and not during the relationship. Because again, hopefully you properly vetted her during the dating phase and asked questions of her past that would give you the answers that you would need to know to make a full-on decision. I don't know if that happened. You can let me know. But at the point that I found out that, hey, I cheated in my past, if it was during the dating phase, I would have already been out. Because past performance indicates future trends. And so even though she's saying, oh, but you're different, this situation's a whole lot different. And we'll be fair to her. Hey, she said to you that she cheated because her ex cheated, but also we weren't there. So that means that could be a story that she's telling to, in your brain, give you a justification for her cheating. We don't actually know what she means when she says that he cheated. Was he emotionally cheating? Was he unintentionally texting a girl behind her back? Did she see him be a little too flirty with a girl at work and she's just calling it cheating? Or was he full on in the bed with somebody? Again, we don't actually know because we're just going on the story she told. All we know is that her reaction to when her boyfriend did something she didn't like, whether it was cheating or whatever, was that she cheated back. That is not the program we want to be on. So if that had been me, I'd have been I dated a girl one time where I found out midway through that in her previous relationship, she had a couple years into it, had kissed another dude. If I had known that in the dating phase, then I'd have been oh no, you've already shown that you're willing to step out if things are starting to go bad. I'm not staying around for that kind of treatment, but I was already in it. So we stayed together for a little while after that. And then we broke up. So suffice to say, this isn't the best. Now, with that said, I also don't live my life in worry or fear about in case something happens. Part of that, honestly, is because I have a good enough self-esteem to know that, let's say I'm with somebody and I found out that they cheat on me. My response would be like, honestly, it would suck. It'd be like, oh, that's horrible. We got to break up. I'd probably mope about it for like a week. And then I'd be like, okay, time to go back out there because I know I can find somebody else. And I find that the guys that don't have the thought or belief that they can find somebody else are the ones that are willing to stay in situations that they will not serve them, or are going to be the ones that constantly worry. So here's how, if I was in your situation where, let's say we were already in a relationship and then I found out that she had cheated, I still would not worry because I'd be like, okay, you know what? Until she actually shows me a legitimate reason to worry, I'm not going to spend my time and energy. Because here's the thing, right? Whether you worry about it or whether you don't worry about it, the cheating could still happen. So in my head, if the cheating could happen regardless of whether I'm worrying or not, is worrying about it going to actually make it not happen? And the answer is no, because both people can be sneaky. Women can figure out, hey, I'm going to be coming home from work an hour late because I had some stuff at the office, and she could have gotten off of work 3 hours beforehand and gotten hooked up with somebody else, or hooked up with somebody at the job, And it's funny, I actually got this from my mom, because my mom was married to my dad before he died, and my dad had a lot of female friends. He was in the Army, and he coached a women's Army softball league. And so there would be times where my mom would go to the games, and she'd be talking to the other women that are there, some of the women that were his friends, and they'd be like, how can you let your man just come out here and just coach all these other beautiful women? And her thought was like, look, I know what I bring to the table. I know what I'm worth. If he wants to cheat with somebody else, then I'll find somebody else. It is what it is. But I'm not gonna spend my life worrying about that happening because it doesn't serve me. Worrying causes you to get wrinkles, causes you to get gray hairs. It doesn't do nothing for her. Or your worrying could do something to her when you're projecting out all these anxiousness and all this neediness and insecurity, to whereby she's like, dude, I wasn't going to cheat, but you're kind of talking me into somebody else's arms. So this is how I live my life, is that I don't worry until there's a reason to worry. And if that were my situation, I'd be okay. She told me that she hooked up with somebody else when it was ex. I wasn't there, so I got to take the thing at face value. So I'll keep that as a note, but I'm not going to stress on it. If she starts doing things that are indicative of she's probably cheating, and turns out that she is, then okay, I know what it is, and I'll leave. That's how I handle it. Ultimately, I'm like this: people have the right to be with whoever they want to be with. If the person I'm with doesn't want to be with me, and they decide to cheat, whether she cheated or not, the end result was going to be we were going to break up and she was going to find somebody else. So it sucks that it happened in a relationship. At the end of the day, if she doesn't want to be with me, that's totally fine. I will find somebody else. That's how I deal with things. But again, if you're not in the practice of having a mindset of abundance, or having a mindset of I can find somebody else, then it's very easy again to be constantly worrying. I got to hold on to this. And she told me she cheated before. I have no reason to worry. The worrying is not going to prevent her from cheating. So it's just better not to. That's really how I look at things, He says she physically cheated, and then he physically cheated, and then she did. Again, that's the story you're getting. So we're going to assume that she's being honest with you, but again, you're not there. I know for a fact, women will sometimes tell stories in a breakup that make them sound like the good guy or the good woman, even if it's a situation where they had crappy behavior. Because for all we know, let's say he cheated, right? We don't get any story before that of what things was she potentially doing or not doing that would make that guy think it's okay to cheat. Was she not giving up in the bedroom enough? Was she talking all kind of crazy to him to where he was like, I just want to be with somebody that's not going to treat me like that? Or he could have been a slime ball. We don't know either one of these. But the point is that if she was the one that was responsible for the guy wanting to sway, you're never going to get that story from her. Women are going to rarely be like, you know what? I stopped cooking his favorite meals. I wasn't giving him massages at night. I didn't do that stuff. So yeah, he cheated and hurt my feelings, but I totally get why. But then I still felt hurt, so I cheated on him. You're not going to ever get that story, So again, this is why, whether she cheated or because of what he did, or whether she did something first or whatever, not you're never going to get the full story, because everybody that tells a story in a breakup is going to make themselves look like the good guy. Even guys will be like, oh, that girl was a whatever, even though it's but he wasn't paying attention to her and he was talking all kind of crazy to her. Guys will just be like, oh, she just didn't get me. So again, we take the story with a grain of salt, and then we just look at, okay, right now, she's giving you no actual reason to doubt her. So go on that until such a time as she legitimately does something huge, just she's probably cheating, or she comes home one day and says, hey, so I got to tell you I was cheating. Don't live in worry, because it only stresses you out, and that's not a good thing. So hopefully that helps you out. I got a couple more of these Reddit questions here, guys. Let's see. What's this one here? Okay. So this guy had a question. He said, so I matched a girl on the app and we went for a fun time at an amusement park and then a riverside dinner at the end. After the dinner, we took a stroll and she invited me to her place and we talked a little, cuddled, and made out. I didn't plan to end up at her place or make out with her that quickly. Also, dude, you did a lot on that date. Like, first date should not be more than like, at least outside, more than like 45 to 90 minutes tops. Like, doing all this extra stuff, taking like 4 or 5 different places for a first date. And then amusement parks are expensive. Dinner's expensive. You spent a lot of money too. Like, this just screams of like, I'm trying to give her all the things so she'll like me. Women can read that and they're going to start thinking, what does he want in return for all this stuff? I'm telling you, women aren't as gold diggy as you think they are, guys. They understand the mechanics of like give and take, meaning like they know if you're giving, you're going to eventually want from them. And then depending on how much of a price you're putting out there, she knows you're probably going to want her body. And if she's not into that, then you spending all this money and doing all these things could actually backfire on you. But anyway, I digress. So he says, post date, I texted her asking for a second date, but she didn't reply. And when I double texted, we don't do that, guys. We don't double text. When I double texted, she said that she would let me know about the second date. And she was a little nervous because she felt things were moving too fast. I apologized and told her I'll give her her space, but she didn't reply subsequently. Why do you guys think it is? You guys have watched some of my stuff long enough, right? Why do you think it is that this woman said that things were moving too fast? Anybody want to guess in the chat? Why is it that she said that he was moving too fast? So his question is, do I still have a chance of getting a second date? Because she didn't explicitly say she didn't want to meet again when I asked her. Some girls did tell me that they don't want to meet anymore or just ghosted me, so I got the idea. What should I do for now? So first off, he needs to learn. So the reason that she didn't reply, the reason that she said that things are moving too fast is because of all the things that I just mentioned. That first date, amusement park, cost a lot of money. Riverside diner, cost a lot of money. After dinner, went to her place. That stuff's whatever, right? But the point is this, is that, for all the talk about women being gold diggers and wanting a guy that's going to spend all this money, this goes back to the more stuff you're doing personally at the beginning, the more it's making her realize what you're wanting out of the situation, which it's not bad to want a relationship, but when women are thinking that, like, based on the first date, you're already wanting her to be in that, that's a problem. And then also, notice he said he texted her post-date, like practically the next day. So now we're getting into, he's spending all this money, he's galvanizing all my time on this date because I'm in an amusement park, dinner, trying to cuddle at the place. That's like a lot of hours, which subconsciously says to women, hey, I'm going to, even though we're not boyfriend and girlfriend yet, I'm already going to treat you like that by taking up as much of your time as possible, including like the next day. Like, I don't want to just go on this one date with you. I want your next day, your next day, your next day, your next day. She does not know you enough to be willing to sacrifice that time. And she doesn't know you enough to sacrifice that amount of texting. So the fact that they went on a date and then right away he's texting her, trying to get on another date, you guys think if I wait more than a day or two, then she's going to think I'm playing games and she's not going to like me and she's not going to know if I want to date her anymore. And this is why I try to tell you guys, when you wait, it gives them time to think about you. It gives them time to think about the date they just went on. It gives them time to think about the great feelings that they felt, how much they enjoyed the time with you, the time you made her laugh at this thing, how great your kiss felt. And they need to sit with that for a few days and let it fester in their brain about how great that felt so they can start anticipating wanting to feel it again. So when you come around 4 or 5 days later and ask for the second date, she's more likely to say yes. When you ask her out that next day, you have not given her brain enough time to reminisce about the time she had with you to want to convince her that it's worth going out with you again. So it behooves you to be patient. When you don't do that, you'll find over a short amount of time rather, that a lot of women will come back to you and say things like this. I'm feeling kind of nervous. Things are moving too fast. Man, I know we just met each other and I had a good time on the date, but and all for women, it's all about feeling. If they feel like the dating presentation that you're doing is going at a pace that's comfortable for them, then they will say yes to dates. If they feel as though it's a rush process for you, then that's going to make them feel like you're trying to force them into a relationship. It's going to make them feel like they're now second guessing whether or not this is a good idea, and you're going to be out. So it's always better as a guy to be patient when trying to get on dates. It's better for you to actually cut back the time that you're taking these women out on dates, because we want them. I tell guys this, look, you want to cut the date short at the height of her enjoyment. Like at the point where you have her laughing and she has those tingly feelings about you and she's starting to ask more and more questions of you. Oh, this is great. Hey, check, please. Get out. I had a great time tonight. She might, well, you want to go something else after this? You know what? I got a big day at work tomorrow, but you know what? Hey, this has been a great time and it's been so good getting to know you so far. Give her a hug, get the freak out. You will do better with getting subsequent dates if you cut a date short than you will if you try to drag these dates out to 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Save those lengthy dates for like date 5 or 6 when she's starting to feel more trust with you and has had a concrete amount of time for you. Like, it's bullcrap, you know? The guy in the chat says she got 4 dates for the price of 1. And hey, you know, a strategy you can do for like a second date is like, because I mean, if you, the more time you take a woman out, then the more she's going to feel honestly ready to hook up. So on a second date, it is a good idea to like, hey, you eat at a spot and then maybe go to another spot, like, but you make sure they're all in the same part of town, right? So like you go to a little dinner spot that's nearby a bar that has like a pool table. After the little dinner, that's like, keep it like 45 minutes tops. Say, hey, you know what? I know a spot over here that has a pool table. Let's go play pool real quick. Go to play pool for like a half hour, maybe like 1 or 2 games. Do that. And then after that, that now feels like 2 dates on 1 date. Now it's going to feel like 3 dates in total because you had that first date and then the second date, which is really this date and then this date. And then maybe like go to like a yogurt shop, get a thing of yogurt. You're only staying there for like 5 or 10 minutes, but that's now 3 places. In her brain, subconsciously, she'll think, I really know this guy. He's taking me on 4 dates, even though it's been 2 dates, but the second date had like 3 things, right? But even that, all that, the restaurant, the pool hall, and then yogurt thing, that should all encompass like 2 hours. At that point, if she wants to invite you in or you invite her into your place or whatever, then it's not going to be as stretched out as what this guy did. Amusement park's probably 2 hours. Riverside dinner was probably another like hour and a half, right? So at this point, we're now at like 3.5 hours before we get back to her place, right? And then she's going to spend more time with you cuddled up. That's a lot of hours. That's going to cause a woman to feel burned out on that first date. You need the first date to be short, so she has enough time to sit with herself during the week when she's not seeing you to want more of your time on that second date, at which point the second date can go a little bit longer. Now, I talk about extensively everything to do on the first date, as well as what to do in between those dates to really make her interest build up in you more, as well as how to knock that second date out of the park so she's darn near ready to hook up with you, sleep with you, whatever, in the Introvert Dating Success Academy program, which you can get at introvertdatingsuccess.com. So definitely check that out, because that's, again, it's a full program of how to get into a relationship that has worked extensively time and time again for me and for the other people that I've coached, and it is available to you at the website. All right, so hopefully that helps that guy out. But yeah, suffice to say, he did way too much too soon. And this was it. Guys don't get it. Like, guys don't see it. Guys don't see how all this conversation, all this being around them, all this texting, all this calling, like how all that actually causes women to lose interest. I got a book on my website called No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams, where I talk extensively about that, about how being on the phone a lot and trying to text and call all the time results in this. And I go into the psychology of like why that is in a very funny way. So that book's at the website as well. All right, so we have this. Oh, good. Finally, got the last one. Okay. So I got this last Reddit question I'm going to read. And then if you guys have any other questions, I'll answer them. And then I'll be out because I got other things to do today. So this guy's question was, so my girlfriend of 3 months is working for a marketing company, quotes, part-time, whose name I will omit. She talks about it all the time like it's a great big family, which immediately set off red flags for me, especially the way she describes and talks about it. Frankly, it sounds like a cult, but I digress. She brought me on a Zoom meeting as guest because a favorite rapper of mine was going to be giving a seminar. After a few minutes of hearing them talk, more red flags were set off for me. So I Googled the company. It turns out it's a legal pyramid scheme. They have been accused in the past, but it appears they have found loopholes in the law to stick around. And to my chagrin, it turns out the rapper also happens to be a big part of the pyramid scheme. He says, I brought it up to my girlfriend through text, and she laughed and said, LOL, and I knew you would say that. Before I could say anything else, she responded with, this is you supporting me. I'm not saying dive into this. And it's me, it's making me money. That's all I see. and made it sound like the conversation was over. This was a week ago, and I haven't touched it since. But I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm not sure how to go about addressing it with her. Her and I typically have open communication and are very opening about our concerns, ideas, conclusions, and feelings. But this came across differently to me. This seemed off limits for me, but I'm worried about her. As a pyramid scheme, it requires you to pay them money for your inventory of goods that you market, for membership to the company, and for you to even participate in their meetings, which are mandatory. I feel like she's being had, and she seems brainwashed by them. What do I do? How do I discuss this topic? I care deeply for her, and this is the first instance since we started dating that has made me feel uncomfortable enough not to talk to her about how I feel. But on top of being bad grammar. But on top of being had, I feel like she is also ripping people off and doesn't even understand that. The products she sells are from supplements and creams to ridiculous Temu style clothing and electronics that won't last. So I'll reiterate, what do I do and how do I address this? So here's the interesting thing, right? We get into relationships with the understanding that part of that is being able to help the person we're with, and sometimes addressing blind spots that they have that they may not see. And so in this guy's case, he's very well-meaning. He's coming to her, hey, babe, I've looked at this company. I've looked at their history. I've looked at some news stories, and it looks like it's a scam. It looks like they're taking your money, and they're not actually going to do anything beneficial to you in the long run. Like, this is a bad idea, all right? So he's told her that, and she has come back and said, hey, you know what? Like, I knew you were going to say that, but really, I just want to be supported, and this is something I'm really into, and I'm seeing a lot of money, yada, yada, yada. So at this point, the guy's like, what can I do further? And my response is nothing. You cannot do anything. Now, that may seem cold-hearted. That may seem like, but Harry, if you really care about her, how could you see this net? Look, here's the thing. We're all adults, right? Adults are going to do what they want to do. So as a guy, you research the company, you say, this isn't good. She researched it and said, this is good. We have a differing of opinion. Your viewpoint of it could very well be right, but it could also be wrong. You have to understand that as an adult, she has made the adult decision to say, I think that this thing has merit and I want to do it. And sometimes the hardest thing as the person that you're with, that you care about, the hardest thing could be seeing them do something that you know is harmful and having to let them experience the harm. It's kind of like, when babies first start touching hot things, if the parent's just like, no, don't touch, it's hot, it'll burn you. The kid has no idea of what that even is. You have to let the kid actually touch the hot stove to recognize, oh, crap. See, not such hotness anymore, right? And so there are going to be times in your relationship, guys, where your woman's going to come to you and say she's doing a thing or wants to talk about a thing or whatever, and you're going to be like, this is a bad idea. I don't think you should get into it. My mom told me a story when my dad was still alive and they were about to move to California. He really wanted a Volvo. In fact, it was the Volvo that when he died, it was still here. We kept it for a few more years after he died. It was like a red maroon Volvo with square, boxy, whatever like that. He always wanted a Volvo, right? And so, but they also wanted to move to California, and they wanted to eventually get a house in California. And so when my mom, who was very good at financial stuff, right, she looked at how much the payments were going to cost for the car and how much it cost overall, and she said to my dad, like this probably isn't like the best purchase. Because if you get this car, we're going to have a lot more trouble trying to get a house in California when we move out there. So I'm telling you now, this is a bad buy. My dad's response was like, I hear what you're saying. I've always wanted this car. I'm getting the car. So at that point, she was like, all right, cool, get the car. So he got the car, drove across the country, came to California. We lived in Northern California at that point in time. And yeah, they went to go get a house. And the people at the house place were like, well, because of your car, you don't qualify for this house now. And at that point, my mom, to be fair, she was never a person that was like the I told you so person. She was just like, she was very loving to say, well, babe, hey, we'll figure out, we'll live wherever. In the meantime, we'll get an apartment, whatever. Like, I just want to be with you and this and that, right? Very, very good response. But that's the point, is that you're going to be with somebody and they're going to do something that you don't think is a good idea. And sometimes it's going to bite them in the butt. And you have to let them take those lumps. But also, when that happens, you can't be the guy that then comes back and says, see, I told you story. You should listen to me the whole time, blah, blah, because nobody wants to hear that in a relationship. And there's going to be times where you're going to do the same thing, where you're going to make a decision about something that the person you're with is going to be like, that's not a good idea because of X, Y, and Z reason. You're going to be like, but I want to do the thing I want to do. And it's going to bite you in the butt. And you don't want her coming to you. You should listen to me, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not a fair thing for anybody to do. So you can do the best loving thing you can, which is to let her know what your grievances are and say, hey, but at the end of the day, it's your decision to make. I'm going to love you regardless of what you decide to do. And I hope that it works out. And then if it doesn't work out, then don't, I told you so, just be like, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, babe. Like, what can we do now? Like, what's the next move? But yeah, that's all you can do. And then, yeah, you know, people have the right to have differing opinions about different things. It does not give you the right to try to hold that over the other person or to try to force your will upon them to think the way you want them to think and see the things that you see right now. Like, again, sometimes people got to experience some stuff. I've been through it. I've been through things where I had to experience it. Like, I've had several times as an adult where I had to call my mom and be like, hey, mom, remember that thing you told me when I was like 22 years old that I shouldn't do this and that? You were totally right. I give those phone calls. I'm like, oh, she has some wisdom about her. But she doesn't say to me then, oh, see, son, you should blah, blah, blah. Like, no, nobody wants that. So don't do that to the person you're with. That's what I'm saying, you know? All right, so let's see. Before we get out of here, we got one more question. Love these questions, guys. So we got a question in the chat. And the question says, since my girlfriend and I have now broken up twice in 2 years, I don't want to enter a relationship with someone who is so easy to quit when times get hard. How can I know in the future she won't quit on us again? How can I properly create an environment with her where we can discuss deal breakers prior to us trying this out again? Well, in your particular situation, I imagine part of those breaks have been because you've been needy and you've been showing the kind of behavior that is not allowing her to trust your masculine core. When women can't trust your masculine core, they have to move into their masculine, in part because they're seeing you as acting more feminine. And you being in a feminine state, you being anxious and needy, which is feminine energy, is going to cause them to head for the hills. Now, I know people don't think that's fair. It sounds weird even now today. It's like, you know, being anxious and needy, you're saying that's feminine energy, that's sexist, how dare, blah, 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 blah. I say that because in our society, of the two sexes, women can get away with being needy and anxious better, and it's more accepted than when men do it. So again, if you have a woman that is looking to date a masculine man, you are not showing the masculine signs that are making her feel safe and secure and that are not therefore allowing her to bask in the easiness of her femininity. So when you stop being that way, then it's going to be easier. That's how you create the environment. You create the environment by learning how to lessen your anxiety, by learning how to be confident in what you're bringing to the table enough to where you genuinely, authentically believe that you are worthy of her sticking to her word and being faithful to you. And that's things that come with practice. Right now, you have whatever, I don't know what your background is in life, but you have not been in the practice of not being anxious and of not having the confidence in yourself to believe that women actually want you. And hey, I didn't have that at one point. I had to learn to grow into that. There are various things you can do in order to better practice that. And when you first start practicing these things, suffice to say, it's going to feel weird and awkward, and it's going to feel like this isn't how I authentically am. And it's not, because you've been authentically acting like nervous and needy. And so we got to get rid of that. You got to replace that with behaviors and mechanics that are going to display and have you feel like a more confident person. At the point that you do that, then you're going to start focusing more on like just being the best version of yourself that you possibly can and showing her the best possible time that you can. As you do that, then you'll find that these fights go away. Because here's the thing, right? And this is what I don't think guys get, is that almost every fight that you have in your relationship is probably because of you. Now, again, men don't like to hear that. Men like to think, but she's toxic and this is that. That could be very, very true, right? But again, women are looking for you to be the leader. So if you're taking on the role as the masculine man and you're taking on the role as the person that wants to be the leader in this relationship, then the buck starts with you. And so if you're displaying neediness and anxiousness and untrustworthiness, unbeknownst to you, you're projecting those things out to your woman, which is now creating the environment for her to be anxious and for her to not be trusting and for her to be wondering about where you're standing and what your stance is in the relationship. And so you have to do the work of getting to a place where, in spite of like her past of being a cheater, which again, regardless of how you learn that, she hasn't done it up to this point. So fingers crossed. But since you agreed to date her in spite of that, you have to continue to date her as if that's not going to happen. But still keep your eyes and ears open, but like you have to go in that mind frame, because if your mind frame is now any day she could cheat on me, you're unknowingly bringing the kind of energy to a relationship that is saying either I want you to cheat on me or there's no trust here. And that's going to cause turmoil and chaos. You know what I mean? So that's why she's so easy to quit, because when you're not displaying the masculine core that she needs, it makes her not feel safe. It makes her not look at you in the same way, and it makes her second guess if she should stay in the relationship, to where what she's doing is this. She's leaving out the relationship, which is giving her space to reset herself, to think back to you in a way where you were that masculine guy. Then she comes back to you thinking, okay, I'm thinking about him as if he's a masculine guy again, so now he's going to be that guy. So when she comes back to you and you're that way for a little while, it's like, okay, everything's great again. But then you start showing the signs of neediness and anxiousness that makes her think, oh crap, he's feminine energying again. Oh my God, I can't trust the masculine core. I got to get away. Every time she goes away, all she's subconsciously trying to do is reset herself to the point where she can think and feel about you again as that masculine guy that she was once dating. And when she comes back and you prove her wrong, she got to leave again. So this starts with you having to be more confident and stuff like that. Question, how can you practice that and grow into that? That is where the self-work comes in. That is where you have to really, for one, for me, myself, it's like this. I had to recognize that in my past, I definitely had some negative dating patterns. I have a free webinar called 3 Nice Guy Dating Patterns that turn women off, that talk about what some of those dating patterns are that you need to get rid of and what you can replace them with to start having new patterns, okay? But beyond that, a lot of this really boils down to you don't have the confidence in yourself, which speaks to you have not done enough stuff in your life to really build up a high level of self-esteem. I find, just speaking as a guy, that in my personal life, the more goals that I set for myself and then was able to achieve them, the more confident I got in myself. As a guy, your main focus should not be her. Your main focus should be, what are the goals that I'm setting for myself to be able to get to a higher place in my job, to have my entrepreneurial thing be successful, to bring more money in. Because when you focus on those things and then you succeed in them, that's going to give you the confidence to be like, yeah, I set myself out to make goals and do stuff, and I do them. And darn it, everything that I say I'm going to do, I end up doing, and it becomes successful. Like, I am the shiznit. And then you walk around with this thing like, hey, I'm the shiznit. Like, I give you guys advice. I'm very much like, I'm like, hey, it's very direct. I don't have any second guesses about the advice that I'm giving you. When I started out doing this, I was like hoping the stuff I was saying was right? So I carried myself differently when I first started out versus what I do now. But that came with time and with results. Every time I get a testimonial from a guy saying, dude, Harry, I did this thing that you said I should do, and I did it, and it totally worked. Just more of a confidence boost, right? And then I walk out in the world like, I give guys advice and it works. I'm confident in what I do. Women see that confidence about the things that I'm confident about that have nothing to do with them. And when they see that, they're like, oh, shoot, that guy's confident. I want to follow him. Because here's the thing. Most women, you will find, they're looking to build up their confidence too, but they don't have a roadmap or guide for that. And so part of the reason they choose the guys they choose is because they're looking at guys that have an exuberant amount of confidence and are like, oh, maybe he's grounded enough to where I can feel confident doing whatever when I'm with him. So as you become confident by setting goals for yourself and achieving them, then the women around you will see that confidence and want to be in your aura. So you need to stop focusing on her and start focusing on your life and putting plans together and working on those plans and succeeding at those plans. And you will find, as a result of doing stuff outside of women, you will gain the confidence that will allow you to be more confident around women, and women will see that. And then beyond that, it's really doing the work of understanding what things draw in women and keep them around, and then also having a better understanding overall of when women choose you, that they're choosing you because they see something in you and they feel that you have worth to them and are worthy of them going out with. And you have to get into the habit of understanding that if she sees that, then that means that it's within you and that you need to see it also. And if you don't see it, this is where therapy works. This is where reading more self-help books works. This is where getting one-on-one coaching works. But these are the things you need to do actively to get your brain clicking into a different mindset about yourself than what you have now. So hopefully some of that helps you out, you know? Anyway, guys, this has been a great Saturday show. I'm glad I got to come on and talk to you guys for a little bit. We'll be back on Tuesday. On Tuesday show is all about the various the various tests that women will give you when they're dating, what to look out for, and that way you'll be better prepared when you see these tests come up in your regular dating life, as well as in your relationships. Because women, just because you're in a relationship, it does not stop women from continuing to test you every so often, all right? But in the meantime, guys, if you enjoyed this show, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want one-on-one coaching or you want to get one of my programs or ebooks, you can go down to the box below this video and click on any of the links. And you can also go directly to introvertdatingsuccess.com. And of course, if you have a question you want me to answer on one of these shows, you can always write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. All right? Thank you guys for watching. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class